Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to introduce you Mr. Alexander Froehliche, industry specialist at food and beverage at Copa Data headquarters in Salzburg. Alexander is with us since almost 10 years. He's supporting integration partners and end users to implement their application with the Zenon software platform. Alexander has also a leading role in developing the batch control technology in Zenon. I'm also honored and very pleased to introduce you Mr. Mirco Baldisseri. He's technical manager at Treesse Progetti, an Italian provider of automation solutions specialized in the food and beverage industry. Mirco has 15 years of experience in breweries, from the biggest international beverage groups down to small craft breweries. Alexander, Mirco, the stage is yours.
Welcome everybody, also from my side. We recognize that breweries are facing a lot of challenges these days. There is more and more competition, there is increasing product diversity, and of course, these days, Corona. So in order to stay competitive, breweries need to increase their flexibility and their efficiency. And at the same time, they need to reduce resource consumption and costs. One way to achieve this is to introduce automation software, and of course, good and modern automation software. And this is the reason why I'm happy to be able to talk today to Mirco Baldisseri, because he is expert in this field. He has experience with a lot of breweries. He has introduced automation software in a lot of them, and therefore, welcome, Mirco.
Thank you very much, Alexander.
So Mirco, to start with, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your company is actually offering.
Yes, Treesse, the company where I work since 15 years, is a software company oriented on automation. Treesse was one of the key players who started at the beginning with the brew automation. It started with the bigger factory, and now is able to approach his know-how even to the small and craft brewery.
Well, on your website, I saw that one of the key offers that you provide is revamping. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this and what is it all about?
Yes, revamping. For some of 19 plans, we can count till 3 automation revamping. Sometimes it's just a software replace, some other occurs currently with some mechanical upgrades. Actually, revamping demand is bigger than the Greenfield project. Because what was very good 15 years ago for the automation now is very out of date. And the factory recognized that they can change completely the efficiency and the capability given by their plant, just make an upgrade.
So how exactly can a company or especially a brewery benefit from introducing retrofit or revamping?
Yes, the benefit is to reach today's industrial requirement without do any mechanical modify, to have a plant oriented to the industry 4.0, and we are able also to provide a turnkey solution for this.
Okay, when you say meet today's industrial requirements, it's very vague. Can you be a little bit more specific? What are today's industrial requirements?
Okay, the today's industrial requirement, for example, that was not, we are not able or was not in the market 15 years ago was, for example, the tracking of the bottling, the tracking of the product, the tracking of everything. Now is very important to have the control of this, and of course to manage as better as we can the plant, to integrate and be able to synchronize in the perfect way all the process to avoid loss of production and downtime and so on.
Okay, that's clear. Now, for you as a system integrator, are there any special requirements when you do revamping compared to greenfield projects? Is there anything special that you need to consider? For example, the experience of the operators, or of course keeping downtime low? What are the challenges that you as a system integrator have?
Yes, it's a mixing of these. We are usual to work as a greenfield project, because in this case, what arrived to us is the P&D of the complete plant, the electrical drawing, and so on. But we know before we make treasure of the current user knowledge, because they know how the plant works. Sometimes the operator have some habit that we must replicate in the new application, in the new automation, because they know and they are there and they work 24 hours a day in their plant. Then we must make treasure of it.
Of course, so you have to collect their knowledge and also try to design the new application in a way so that they actually are willing to use it.
Yes, both must be in according with this. We must to make this application for Industry 4.0, but even we must make the operator who work there happy.
Of course. So very good. So now that we know what revamping actually is, let's be a little bit more specific and talk about the project where you actually applied this. So we want to talk about the brewery in Pedavena. Last year, just about the same time of the year, they actually contacted you because they recognized that they were actually using an outdated automation software or outdated automation solution for their BBT. And so can you explain a little bit what their problem actually was, and what risks they were facing, and what you actually provided or offered to them?
Yes, this plant is a medium big factory. They have an old dry beer tank plant based on Windows XP with unsupported software platform, with unsupported PLC, and so on. The dry beer tank in this case is very important, because in a brewery factory is where the final product is stored before to be sent to the fillers. It means is the last step before the beer arrives till the bottle you drink. And it's very important to make the full tracking of everything it happened in this plant, because we must be sure there was not contamination by the cleaning, by some microbiological issue, and so on. It is very important to make the full tracking of all the process in this part of the plant. And of course, the production is the must, because usually this part of the plant works 24 hours and for 7 days.
Okay, so BBT control is very important, and I assume that they had none of what you just mentioned before, so they didn't really use the tracking before, right?
No, they have, but not as full as we provide. We want to provide to them.
Okay, so what exactly was your offer, and did you see any specific challenges for this particular project?
Yes, when I started with this project, because we want to work in this way, we make a meeting with the customer. Of course, we understand what they need. Okay, we bring all the P&I, the existing software, and so on, and we choose to provide to demonstrate with a demo that we show also in the Braubevial, how to approaching the ISA 88 full compliance, the FDA 21 CFR Part 11, the MES integrated, the batch control given by Zenon, give them the best solution for their dry beer tank plant.
Well, That sounds like a very ambitious plan to implement all of these features into a project, into a Zenon project. I'm curious to see how the final product or the final application actually look like. Can you give us a few examples and show us how it turned out?
Yes. Can you share me the application? Thank you. Okay, here we are. Can you see?
I can see it.
Okay, great. So, first of all, the first thing you can see is that the entire plant are in the same overview. Okay, is just is as the P&I come as in AutoCAD form, and we put everything in the same overview. Of course, we have some tools to navigate. As this one, we can zoom in the part of the plant and take a look at what happened. Of course, we can use the usual command for, as in AutoCAD, like Control and mouse to zoom, the right click to move, and take a look at what happened in the plant. Of course, in this way, everything is in the same overview, but will be nice also to navigate using the equipment modeling. The equipment modeling is very important in this application. I can say is one of the pillars because everything is based on it. It's based because it's useful, because we can find the right part of the plant we want to take a look, just clicking and jumping. Okay, I choose to take a look to the briber tank number 1 and take a look what happened to this BBT. I see is going to be emptying to this filler and so on. But the equipment modeling is not just only important for this, but is strictly related to the batch control. It means that when I move and click in the equipment, okay, I automatically connected the alarm and the batch.
Well, maybe before we continue with batch control, may I interrupt you a little bit and add some more information about the equipment modeling, because I think this is a really important part of your project, actually. And also, I like to highlight this because I see that not so many of our customers are actually using the equipment modeling, despite the fact that it has been a part of Zenon for quite a long time. Some of our customers didn't really recognize it. But I really want to emphasize that a little bit. The equipment modeling is really a nice feature because it allows you to create a kind of a tree structure of your facility, and then you can link all your variables to a node in this tree, and then you can use that for various purposes. For example, for filtering your alarms and your events, or also for filtering your archive values and do product tracing afterwards. And as we have seen it in your case, you can also use it for navigation in the project. So I can really recommend to use this feature.
Yes,
sorry for the interruption.
No, you're right. This feature is useful for both for the integrator, because it makes us able to split the entire application in some small piece, okay, but even give it to the final operator, to the final user, is very nice to navigate here in this way and filter everything as the pages, the alarm, the batch, and also the reporting, the tracking, and so on. Everything is based on equipment modeling here.
Okay, so before you were just about to introduce how you used the batch control module in your application. Maybe we can continue here.
Yes, batch control. Batch control is really important. Everything in this application is moved by batch control. It means that we bring the entire plant, and as the ISA 88 rule tells us, we split it in several equipment, several units, and so on. So every valve, every motor that is moved in this application is controlled by an batch control. Let's take a look to the batch control, for example, of this equipment. Okay, this equipment, I can make some zoom. This is the image used for show the filler, the bottle filler. This plant provide from this tank, open this valve and give the product to the filler. So I take a look to the batch control of this, and I can see what happened. This is the control recipe. The control recipe is is the son of a master recipe. In this case, the master recipe is the 74. I create a control recipe that is called 19. Okay, mind that these two numbers are univocal in the history of the plant, and this is very important for the full tracking of everything.
So maybe, sorry for interrupting you again. So for all of those who are not so familiar with the batch control, we distinguish between master recipes and control recipes, where the master recipe is more or less what you actually design. So where you put together all those phases that we see in your recipe view here. So this is what the process engineer actually does. He puts this process together and stores that as a master recipe. And then when you actually start producing, for every batch that you produce, you create more or less a copy or an instance of that master recipe. And this one is called the control recipe. And as you said, this can then be used for tracking because you only have exactly one control recipe for one batch. So you can easily use that for tracking afterwards.
Yes, is it. In this case, we can see the control recipe that is actually controlled and moved this filler, the transfer line from this BBT till the filler. Okay, I can say here that before it do some things like it was dirty, it will be cleaned, and so on, and now the actual phase is this, and of course I can take a look to a lot of information when you start, the actual value, the set point value, and everything is under control. It's very easy for the operator because from this overview, just clicking to the equipment, you can take a look to the batch control and modify quickly the parameter, of course, if the password allow him to do it, and take a look to the batch number, the master recipe, control recipe, and so on.
So if I understand correctly, it's not the case that you just have one recipe running at a time, but instead you have one recipe per equipment running at the same time. So you have quite a few of them at the same time. Yes.
For example, is really interesting. For example, the CP. Let's take a look to the CP. This part of the plant is used for the cleaning of the tank. And also this part, as I told you, is managed by the batch. All these tanks are an equipment. And for all of this, they have its own sequence. Its own sequence that is related from a master recipe to a control recipe. It means that even for the cleaning part, there is the possibility to have the full tracking or everything. And this is really important because sometimes when we hear about the tracking, we are usual to think just to the product inside the bottle, to the beer in this case. But in this situation, it's very important also to make the full tracking also of the cleaning solution. Because if we are going to have some problem with this cleaning solution, okay, we can reach all the CAP that was performed with that. And we can stop the product to the filler immediately.
So actually, I have to say it looks a little bit complicated because you have so many different recipes running at the same time. How is it then for the operator actually to control everything? Is it easy or is it hard for the operator to control it?
I think everything is made at the same way. There is no difference if we are managing a CP equipment, as I show you, a CP unit, or a CP tank, or a BBT. Everything, it looks equal at the same way. Then here in the top, you have the ZenonIZE20 usual command at held. I held the sequence, everything is going to stop. I can resume, I can abort, I can move the sequence in manual, put it, everything where I want, just clicking, switching it in a manual mode and so on. But this interface is the same for do everything. Then the operator, when he learn one, he learn everything about the plant, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is important also if someone have other work experience with some application made with ZenonIZE20, because the philosophy behind is always the same. And this is very important.
Okay, so it's not so hard for the operator to learn how to use that tool. And how do you actually rate the, how would you say, how difficult is it to create such a recipe? What is your experience?
Okay. At the beginning,
I mean, for the process engineer, because
yes. I thinking, okay, it become everything easier when we discover the unit type, because linking the unit type with the placeholder, we recognize that we can simplify all this plant that is composed that more or less that 300 of control module and about 20 unit. Okay, we can simplify it just using 5 kind of unit type that we can instance several times. And we can use the placeholder that help us to link the same recipe to several units make with the same unit type. It means that to make works all these things you see in this screen is just it is only 50 control module bigs and 5 kind of unit type. And when we make it works for 5 units, we just copy and paste, and it works for all the units. And it was amazing.
Yeah. I'm really happy that you introduced this new feature, or that you actually mentioned it. This is a feature that we have introduced in version 8.10 for all of those who haven't seen that. So we are now able to create unit classes, which are more or less templates for the actual physical units. And as you said, this brings benefits to both the system integrator and the end user, because the system integrator can create a template for these units, which is actually an approach that we have seen in many other features of Zenon in the past, like symbols and all that stuff. So you design your template once, and then you can create as many instances of it as you want. And of course, if you need to do some change, then also you do the change only once, and all the instances will be updated immediately. So this is the benefit for the system integrator. And at the same time, we have a benefit for the end user, because he has now the possibility to create recipes which are not bound to a specific equipment, but instead he only decides on which equipment to execute the recipe just before he actually executes it, which helps to just reduce the number of recipes that you have to maintain. Yeah.
Yes, I can show you. This is the tool where we manage the recipe, because before we was in the workplace, okay, where the operator is usual to work. But here with this easy interface, I can see here all the master recipe I already prepared For example, I can prepare the identical BBT sequence for the product that is called the pills, and I can instance it several times, okay? If I need to instance one more time, I can duplicate one control recipe existing, or can create a new control recipe for the master recipe, is the same, okay? I can duplicate it, create a copy, of course, and I can choose, okay, this is related to BBT number 6. I want to say, okay, this is not BBT number 6, BBT number 12, okay? And using the unit placeholder, I can choose, okay, the same recipe that was good for BBT number 6. Of course, the BBT is identical. I can allow to download it to BBT number 12, okay, and it goes to running.
Of course, at the moment, it seems it is blocked because BBT number 12 is probably occupied by some other process.
It is ready because it is scheduled, because BBT number 12, as you see, this symbol, it means that is waiting for assignment, because someone already started with another recipe that is called the BBT number 12 lager. And you see the system recognize it because the unit was already allocated from this recipe that is running, okay? And doesn't allow us to make this mistake.
That is a really cool, you have, we can all live demonstrate this security mechanism. It's really nice. Yeah. Maybe just to go ahead with the next topic and not spend too much time with this here, we have already talked quite a bit about tracking. And of course, when we talk about tracking, we immediately think about reporting. So maybe we can have a look at some of your reports that you can provide.
Yes, of course. We can take a look here. We have a dedicated page for the reporting by recipe. All the navigation is always made at the same way. Then we are always thinking about the master recipe and control recipe, okay? Then here I have the list of the master recipe perform, okay? The master recipe perform, for example, this one. And when I click in it, I can find all the control recipe that was running with this control recipe, but not just the one that are completed, done. It's possible to reach the report even if the recipe is still in progress, with a partial report, of course, but we can reach all the data even if the product is not closed, and it is really important, even because here in the brewery factory there are some processes that take a lot, for example the fermenting tank, but also the storaging in the brewer tank too. So if I take a look, for example, to this, if I have a bottle where I can take a look if there is the label with write 74.7070 in the label, okay. I can take a look to the report. Now is collecting all the data of this brewer tank. I mean the CIP, from which unit was filling, how long does it take, each cleaning step.
So it collects a lot of data from the runtime and from the archives and also the alarms and all that stuff. And
now
it has to...
It in real time is providing also some graphic data, a lot of statistical report, but of course, is quickly, if at the end of each production, you automatically print out, as I'm going to show you, the final report is going to be a little bit faster. for example. This one. Okay,
so
you
this
see?
is what will be automatically created when the batch is finished?
Yes, is it? 74.17, okay. First of all, is very interesting because we can see the structure of the control recipe, okay. That is designed at this flow chart when you can reach all the steps and so on, okay. We can take a look for each control strategy. Each block of this is called the control strategy.
Sorry, may I ask you to just zoom in a little bit, because I'm afraid that for the audience it will be hard to actually identify what we see here.
Okay. Is it?
Thank you.
For each of these, of course, we know the start time, the finish time, the duration, and so on. Okay. Then I want to take a look from which BBT come the beer bottled of this filler, this batch. Okay. Then I go down, I go to take a look to the step. I'm looking for the empty.
Quite a few phases that have been executed.
Yes, all the phases that are being executed, the time. For each phases are reported the set point value. It means the value that is given by the recipe. And the process value, it means the value read from the field. Okay, for example, I can see that this tank was cleaned with caustic from this unit, from this master recipe, a control recipe, and so on. I can connect to the CIP, but let's take a look to the emptying.
Quite a long report, actually.
Yes. A lot of things. So this is the lot ID. Okay, I can see here that the BBT number is the number 2, and the lot ID of the partner is a 60C.21. It means we connected the filler to the BBT. Then I take a look to the report of this lot ID. Okay, this is the BBT number 2. And here I have also the lot ID, the name, the representation of the master recipe, all the steps and everything. At the end, I can take a look if some alarm happened. I didn't show you in the other report, but in this is really interesting. For example, here, it made some statistic graphics of the main alarm occurred during this BBT lifetime. Okay, and even I can take a look. Okay, which process clean this BBT? So I take a look to the CIP part. Okay, CIP part is this. CIP BBT cleaned 6839. Then I can take a look to the CIP. What's happened also here?
So you can dig deeper and deeper and
can go deeper and deeper till everything's and collect all the information I want and link everything using the lot ID. That is the key. That is the key that identify all the process that I've done my plant is codified by lot ID. All the valve, all the motor move, everything will happen.
So, yeah, that's really extensive tracking of everything, basically. Really amazing what you did here.
And to provide also this graphic data and so on is really really helpful.
We have seen quite a lot now, and maybe for some of us, it was a little bit overwhelming. So maybe we can try and summarize everything a little bit. And therefore, I will share my screen again because we have the summary in our PowerPoint presentation. So, okay, so let's start with the navigation concept that you have introduced. So we have seen that is a very unique thing. So you use the equipment modeling and a world view screen that allows you to easily navigate without actually switching screens. You can just zoom in with touch gestures or by using the equipment modeling, and you have a complete overview at all time. And if you need more detailed information, you just zoom in and then you can access all the information. A very cool feature, actually. Another thing that we have seen.
Alexander, I imagine to have a complete brew, show it in a unique overview. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. So this approach, of course, can be easily applied to a full brewery, not only to the BBT part, but to a full brewery, and that will be a really cool thing. Another feature that we have seen is the batch control, of course. So the batch control is more or less the heart of your application. It controls all the processes, all the transfers between tanks and from a tank to the filling line and everything. So we have seen you use the newest features with the unit classes and all that stuff. Very cool implementation of the batch control module. And of course, also one thing that is very important is the advanced reporting capabilities that your application has. And probably for those who are not only interested in the F&B industry, but also in the pharma industry, of course, this is a reporting system that would also be useful in a pharma environment, because as you have mentioned earlier, you fulfill the requirements of the FDA, for example. So very cool application. Now, for all of those who want to learn more about this application, there is a brochure from your company, from Treesse Progetti, which will be available for download after the event. And of course, I believe you will be happy if interested viewers will also contact you afterwards. Now, let's summarize the user's benefits a little bit, because we have talked a lot about the features of your application, but features are worthless if they don't translate to users' benefits. So how can a user, or in the end, an operator, benefit from your application? First of all, there is effortless acquiring of status information. So you always have all the required information displayed, and it is very easy for an operator to actually read this information and to identify issues, for example. Also, we have hassle-free control of the equipment through intuitive user interface and Xenon batch control. So as we have seen, it is easy to navigate around, and also the batch control module itself is designed to provide good user experience and to be easy to use. Just think about designing a recipe where you just use drag and drop and stitch together all these faces. It's very easy to use. And of course, the way how you implement it in your application improves it even more. And in the end, we have comprehensive data review through reporting, where we don't miss a single piece of information. We have everything there. So for example, if you need to prove something to an auditor, we have everything there in the reporting. So I really have to say that your application is a really cool one, and I'm happy that you presented this to our viewers today. And actually, I believe that this application is a very good example of how our partnership, how the Copa Data partner community can work. So if we bring together a cool software platform and experienced engineers like you are and your colleagues, then such an application is what can be produced. And this is something that you can be really proud of, I believe. Thank you very much, Mirco.
Thank you very much to you, Alexander. See you soon. Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Maybe we have a few questions left. Time for a few questions, Emilian?
Yes, we've got just a few questions in the chat. I just pick up a few of them. And first of all, how can we filter the report to selected master and control recipe? How you can filter to focus on a specific recipe here?
Mikko, did you hear the question?
No, I can't hear very well, Emilian. Can you?
Yes, I will put the question here in the room. So the question was, how can we filter the report to selected master or control recipe?
How can we feel? Okay. Can I show the application?
Yes, please.
Okay. Here we are. Okay. So as I told you, we can filter it just clicking in the master recipe, in the master recipe ID, and automatically in the bottom appear only the control recipe that belong from that master recipe. Okay. In this way, this is the first filter. Of course, if you need, you can find here by number, find here by name, find here by version, and so on, both from master and the control recipe too. Of course, if I need to take a look to a report of something that is still running or something that I know the ID, I can take a look, for example, to this one, 7419. Okay. I take a look of the number of the lot ID here, and I can reach the data easily. Just find the 7419.
Maybe one little detail to add here. You can, of course, also, if you're looking for a batch that has been produced in the past and you're not exactly sure about the batch number for some reason, you can, of course, also select multiple master recipes. So you get all the control recipes for all of them. And then you can, for example, sort them by production date and time, and then use this to find the one that you're actually looking for.
Yes, here we hide some column, but it gives us the possibility to find using the date and time and so on. Then it's not hard to find what you are looking for. Of course, if it's necessary, we can add some features to link directly from the lot ID, from all the master and so on. Okay, now I'm looking, for example, to a report of a not finished production that is still running. Then it will be not completed, just these phases. Okay, but it works and show us what happened till now.
Very good. I think this...
I'm very satisfied with this answer, Mirco, and we've got another question. I think we have time to take another question from the chat. And we have seen a report which is pretty big and has a lot of details. And is it any exception reporting available? So just a report focused on critical deviations, alarm to be focused on, just to a selected set of alarms with a certain priority.
You mean inside the report?
Yes, if you have this possibility.
Oh,
to create or to filter in this way that you don't generate all this big report always.
Yes. Here we put all the data because we want to demonstrate how it works. Okay, and the full potentiality of this. Of course, if we want, we can make the collection of all the data and the whole printed of the report as we show you, but also we can print a smaller report with just the detail we need. Is it?
I think it's a good answer for this. It's clear. So we have here flexibility to design the reports, and also in the filter phase, flexibility to introduce the specific filters.
Mind that we design this report, and we choose to show this data, for example, with a graphic about the statistics of the alarm. This one. I see this is the alarm. The gray one is the CO2 connection missing. The 3 is the unit not running co-current. The temperature product not okay. And we choose to show all the data in this way to give to the end user the feeling of the statistic of the alarm. But of course, you can choose the better way you want.
Okay, so thank you very much again, Mirco, and see you soon.